It was just another cold winter evening when I got off work. The shift had dragged on, and I was relieved to finally head home. The drive wasn't a long one, maybe 30 minutes on a good day, but living in a northern state meant unpredictable weather, especially during the winter months. That evening, the sky had been clear when I left work, stars visible against the dark canvas of night. But halfway through my commute, the weather turned. At first, it was just a light dusting of snow. I didn't think much of it, typical for this time of year, but within minutes, the snowfall intensified. Fat, wet flakes slammed against my windshield, the wipers struggling to keep up. The road ahead was quickly disappearing beneath a thickening white blanket, and my car's traction control light started blinking as the tires slid slightly on the icy surface. I slowed to a crawl, leaning forward in my seat as if that would help me see through the blinding snow. The wind howled outside, making my small sedan feel even smaller and less secure. It wasn't long before I noticed other cars pulling over to the shoulder, their hazard lights blinking faintly through the blizzard. It was as if the storm had dropped out of nowhere, so sudden and intense that it felt unnatural. Reluctantly, I followed suit, steering my car carefully to the side of the road. The snow was falling so fast and thick that I could barely see the taillights of the car in front of me. For a moment, I just sat there in stunned silence, listening to the roar of the wind and the occasional thunk of snow piling up against my windows. The temperature inside the car began to drop quickly, and I debated whether I should keep the engine running or conserve gas. That's when I noticed it. The lights. At first, I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. I rubbed at them and blinked a few times, but the lights were still there, faint and hazy through the blizzard. They were moving in slow, deliberate patterns above the treetops, glowing softly in colors that shifted between blue, green, and a strange orange-red hue. They didn't look like normal aircraft lights, no blinking reds or whites, no clear directional path. These were different, almost hypnotic. I rolled down my window just a crack, hoping to get a better look, but the wind blasted snow into the car, forcing me to shut it quickly. Still, I could hear something faint in the distance, like a low hum or vibration. It wasn't loud, but it was persistent, almost resonating in my chest. Other drivers must have noticed the lights too, because one by one, people started stepping out of their cars. Despite the howling wind and the near impossible visibility, they were drawn to the strange display above. I hesitated for a moment, then grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The cold was biting, the kind that chills you to your bones almost instantly. Snow whipped around me, and I could barely make out the shapes of the other drivers through the storm. Most of them were standing next to their vehicles, heads tilted back as they squinted up at the lights. I joined them, shielding my eyes against the wind and trying to focus on the shapes moving above. The lights were still there, swirling and shifting in a way that made no sense. They seemed too deliberate, too synchronized to be natural phenomena, but too erratic to be man-made. The snow made it hard to get a clear view, and every time I thought I could make out a distinct shape, it would dissolve into the storm as if teasing me. "What the hell is that?" someone nearby muttered. His voice was muffled by the wind, but filled with awe and fear. "I don't know," another voice replied. "Northern Lights, maybe?" "No way," someone else cut in. "Northern Lights don't move like that, and they're not that bright." As the group of us stood there, staring into the storm, the hum grew louder. It wasn't a steady noise. It wavered, almost like a deep, guttural growl at times, then softened into a pulsating rhythm. The sound made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It felt wrong. And then, as quickly as it had started, the snow stopped. Not gradually, like you'd expect during a normal storm, but all at once. One moment the air was thick with blinding flakes. The next it was clear. I blinked in confusion, looking around at the empty road and the other stunned drivers. The ground, which had been covered in at least 6 inches of snow just moments ago, was completely bare. It was as if the storm had never happened. The lights in the sky vanished at the same time. No slow fade, no lingering glow, just gone like someone flipping a switch. The hum, too, disappeared, leaving behind an eerie silence that felt almost louder than the storm. "What?" someone started to say, but his voice trailed off. No one else spoke. We all just stood there, staring at the empty sky and the perfectly dry road, trying to process what we just experienced. One by one, people started getting back into their cars. The spell was broken, and reality was creeping back in, but the unease lingered. I climbed into my own car, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel tightly. My hands were trembling, and I couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from whatever had just happened. The rest of the drive home was uneventful, but my mind raced the entire way. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had convinced myself that there had to be some logical explanation. A freak weather anomaly, an experimental aircraft, something. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. The next day, I checked the news, expecting to see reports about the storm and the strange lights, but there was nothing. Not a single mention. I even searched online, but all I found were vague posts from a few locals who had seen the same thing, their accounts eerily similar to mine. The lack of coverage only made it more unsettling. How could something so bizarre go completely unreported? It's been weeks now, and I still can't shake the memory of that night. I haven't seen the lights since, but every time I drive that stretch of road, I feel a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I don't know what I saw or what it meant, but I do know one thing. It wasn't natural, and I don't think it was meant to be seen.